Clerk will call the meeting to order. And, let's have a roll call first.
Supervisor Gens,
He's gonna be a little bit late
Supervisor Nudo,
here.
Supervisor Brookhouse,
Here.
Supervisor Gama,
Here.
Supervisor Gashke is excused. He's out of town. Supervisor Geertsen,
Here.
Supervisor Kirby here. Yig member Ethan,
Here.
Yig member Megan.
And I did hear from Megan.
Okay, citizen comments. Any citizen wish to speak? Any citizen wish to speak? Any citizen wish to speak? Seeing none, citizen comments are closed. Reports from the chairman. Well, as you guys can see, I'm not Jeff Katz. Thank God. Well, but I'm joking. But Jeff is gonna be in a few minutes later, so we're gonna do that. Approval of minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Gersten, second by Supervisor Kirby. Any discussion, changes, amendments? All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Passes unanimous. If it's okay with everybody, we'd like to move number 7 before number 6.
I have no objection.
Any objections from anybody? Okay, so let's have number 7, finance resolution to approve Kenosha County consolidated donation policy. And I suppose you're gonna.
That's me. Yes.
Okay,
So before you have a county donation policy. We're requesting that the county board approve this policy. So just to give a little background on the how this came to be, Supervisors Gertsen and Decker brought it to finance's attention that municipalities and counties of our size typically have donation policies. We did some research and saw that that is true. At the county had a few isolated donation policies specific to programs or to a division or department. Specifically over the years that I've been here, there's been a few others that have been attempted that didn't make it through the process. But overall, it became apparent that a comprehensive policy is definitely best practice. Checked with Government Financial Officers Association, and they confirmed that as well. So with that on our plate, we did some research and looked at a number of different entities that have these types of policies. Pulled out the things that were pertinent to Kenosha County and things that were best practice. And before you tonight is complete policy. So as I said before, historically, the donations that we had there were a few departments with resolutions, but there wasn't really a consistent way of doing it. This policy will make it transparent and it'll align with the best practices recommended by GFOA. The goal of the policy is to ensure that the donations are accepted and managed in a way that makes it transparent, fiscally responsible, and aligned with the county's mission. So at a high level, the policy does 4 things. First, it establishes clear rules for accepting donations, talks about the variety of different kinds of donations that can be done. It's not just cash, it can be equipment, securities, property interests, all that sort of thing. It goes in the detail on that. Secondly, it also establishes approval thresholds to make sure that there's appropriate oversight. There's no rules in here that will discourage people from making small donations. Certainly we don't want to do that, but we want to make sure that there's, in the case that there's larger donations, that there's a good process in place to make sure that it's being reviewed, to make sure that it's in the best interest of Kenosha County to accept that donations. That leads to the third point of the policy. It introduces financial and risk review safeguards. So it allows for review by corporation counsel, by risk management, and by finance to make sure that the benefits certainly outweigh the drawbacks or things that would be not in the best interest of Kenosha County. And fourth, the policy would also then strengthen the transparency and accountability. Provides for documenting these things. And this, I'll go through in a little bit. It shows that on an annual basis, we'll have to bring it to the finance committee so that everyone is made aware of the level of donations that have been provided to the county. And lastly, it still preserves those three or four separate previously approved resolutions by the board, as those will fit underneath this overall arching policy. There's nothing in those policies that contradicts anything that's in the overall policy. So with that, I'll kind of go through high level, kind of the different sections that we have in the policy. So starting on page 2, talks about the scope. The scope being that anything that falls under Kenosha County's jurisdiction falls under this policy. It includes agencies like DARE, even if they're not necessarily receiving county funds. But certainly the departments and things that have budgets related to the county. On page 3, it refers to the approval thresholds, showing at the different levels, not only the monetary, but the in-kind, typically in-kind donations or services, and then the evaluation of that. So there's levels regarding that. And then with each required approval level, there's different levels of steps or procedures that have to be in place. Some require an acceptance form, some would require division head approval, county executive notification. Anything more than 1,000 would require just a notification to the county executive. Anything over 10,000 would then rise to the level of having finance, corporation counsel, and risk management to review the donation. And then anything that's 25,000 or more would require a county board. Real estate, make sure to fold that in your real estate. There's separate language in the ordinances that allows for the real estate transactions have to be approved by the county board, and that's reiterated in this policy. Page 4, it talks about the review and the evaluation process in a little more detail. Budget and fiscal responsibility, that's where it speaks to the cost benefit analysis. So it takes everything into account, costs that will be incurred potentially from accepting this donation. Transparency and oversight, where we make sure that we keep track using a donation log that is maintained by the finance division. There's making sure that acknowledgement letters are sent out to the donors. And then, as I said before, this donation activity report will then be compiled and then presented to the finance committee. Page 5, it talks about the carryover unobligated funds. So if there's a donation that's made that the county board is approving, that will be able to carry those over to subsequent years' budgets for the purposes that they were intended. There's speaks a little more detail into legal and the risk review of donations, restrictions on donations, and page 6, it talks about naming rights. The levels of approval have to do with that, naming rights and donor recognition for various levels of the facilities. Page 6 at the bottom there, it speaks to best practices, kind of reiterates some of the highlights of what this policy needs to have in it in order to serve in the best interests of the county. On page 8, it goes into detail of the types of acceptable donations. That's a detail there and what would be done. So an example would be, it requires that if someone donates securities to the county, that those are immediately turned into liquidated in the cash to prevent it from being susceptible to a drop in price and losing the value of it. And Appendix A shows the different policies that are out there, or resolutions that were already approved for parks. There's one specifically for the K-9 unit for the sheriff's department. That was approved a few years ago. And then a quite detailed policy that Brookside and Willowbrook has. And that goes into more detail regarding their endowment funds and the Sunshine Fund, and very specific to them. Page 15, there's a glossary of terms that were used as part of the policy. Next page is an acceptance quick guide, things to make sure that are checked when it comes to looking at the approval and acceptance. These donations, the donation acceptance form that's referred to in the approval section. There's the example of that. The next page. And the last page is an example of what a donor acknowledgement letter would look like. And sending that to donors. So with that, I'll take any questions that anyone has. Look at that, perfect time.
Okay. Any questions? Finish this.
Go ahead, finish.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of the resolution.
Okay, moved by Supervisor Pearson, second by Supervisor Kerwin. Any discussion? Supervisor,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say thank you to the administration when we brought this initiative forward. It's the continue march towards excellence in fiscal management and having best practices in place. And this is another policy that helps us do that. And again, I say thank you to the team that worked hard on this, and to my colleague, Aaron Decker, that co-sponsored this. And the basic idea is that we're not going to take a donation that would be where the cost would exceed the benefit. And we're not going to take a donation that would that would be reputationally harmful or damaging to the county. We just keep moving towards best practices of a AAA government. And with Mr. Chairman, with that comment, I yield.
thank you. Any other discussion? Supervisor.
Yeah, so out of curiosity, what if somebody donated cryptocurrency?
Cryptocurrency. Is that something that's
FBI.
Is that something that's liquidated?
I think it would have to be converted to cash, because
Yeah.
just like stock, we're not allowed to own crypto, and the rules don't let counties own that. So we would have to convert a thing like that to cash.
Pretty much the same way that, number 3 publicly traded securities probably work the same way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Anybody else? I had a couple of questions before, but Arnold did a good job in explaining, which that answered my questions, so I appreciate that. If there's no more questions, we're just gonna vote. All in favor, and we'll start with the government. How you vote? Aye. I pass. Okay, and committee,
I,
opposed? Passes unanimous. Okay, let the record show that the chairman against came in at about 11-6. So I'm gonna pass the gavel to him. So I'm done being Jeff Gans, now I gave you the nice guy.
The nice guy?
All
Alright. So I'm gonna take this opportunity to say I am truly sorry. I got tied up with something that I couldn't get out of, and I apologize. We'll move on to the sheriff, number 6.
Evening Supervisors, I'm Captain Steve Baranis from the Kenosha County Sheriff's Office. I am the Captain of Operations. The chairman had asked for an update on the SRO program. I believe last month the county board had approved 2 additional resource officer positions. Those positions are filled. Both officers are in those schools and working every day. So that brings us to a total of 4 school resource officers for the sheriff's office. We cover Central, Beaumont High School, Salem Grade, and Riverview, which is actually in the Silver Lake School District. Those school resource officers were selected. I have one of them here. So Deputy Hyatt was the school resource officer at Central High School, and he's been moved to the Salem Grade School. He is also our longest tenured school resource officer. If there's any specific questions about what he does or what that entails, that's why he's here.
Thank you. And the reason I asked for that is I'd like to hear what we're actually doing in there and what, you know, what difference we're kind of making and how he has seen it going since he's been in there before. How he's seen it going. Obviously, we can't get an update on the 2 new ones, but that being said, we do have some time and seasoning in on the other one. So why don't you let the committee know and the people who are here why that program was started and where you think it is and that type of thing.
Well, I think the program was started because there was a need to deal with those specific calls for service at the schools. And it kind of was, instead of bringing a deputy off the road, it is a deputy that works in that school every day and has specialized training to deal with, you know, things that arise at a school versus that jack of all trades deputy that comes in to deal with a school problem. So he does, our SROs receive specialized training. And that's kind of, and there's different rules for dealing with kids and juveniles and that kind of stuff, even when we're dealing with the going in and referring charges. So that's kind of what's, you know, what that specialized training entails.
Through you to him, do you think that's needed? How do you think it's going?
How do I think it's going in which school?
Well, the one you were in.
Central?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think it's going great, but we do a lot more than just your incident response calls. Like that's the obvious thing we do, right? We take care of accidents in parking lots. We take care of any emergency that happens while we're there, but we do a lot of other things like security assessments, lockdown drills, all the emergency drills. I get into classrooms and I teach. That's one of my favorite things I do. The kids respond really well to that. I think it's going absolutely fantastic. I mean, it builds a relationship with every single kid there. It builds a relationship with, I mean, not just the 1,300 kids, but you got 150 teachers, all the administrators. I think it's needed. I think it's great.
I also think it's a deterrent. I mean, if somebody knows that there's somebody capable in there, I think that's a good thing too. So, all right, that's just basically what I wanted to know. So I'll throw that Supervisor Brookins.
So when you teach in the classroom, give us an example of what you teach.
I have been so I make up the PowerPoints, right? So I've been asked to go into physics. I talk about the MCAT team, the Major Crash Resistance team, just some of the math behind that and what we do. I've gone to the health classes. We talk about everything from underage sexual activity to OWIs to traffic stops. I mean, you can have everyone from 9th grade to, 14 to 18 years old. Well, they're starting driving. They have a lot of questions. I open it up. Hey, don't be nervous to ask a question. What do you got for me? Government classes talking about the amendments. I've been in cooking classes. I mean, I go into whatever class I can and get as much exposure as possible. And we get nothing but great feedback from all of that.
So when you're in these classes, what surprised you the most that they don't seem to know that they should know?
I'd say the health class probably hits the most because you sit and you talk about like traffic stops, what you do, what you don't have to do. For some odd reason, these kids don't get told much about driving. I mean, and they're 16 years old about to drive. That probably surprised me the most, but just the interaction I have, I think surprises me. Some of them, I mean, I've been in classes where I hate cops, right? And by the end of that day, or now that I know that I'll spend more time with that student, they're my best friend, but after 2 weeks, you put a human behind the badge and they get to know me more than they just get to know the badge. And I think that does a lot for people, especially people who've only had exposure to cops where maybe you've arrested their family member, right? So it goes from I hate cops to, hey, they're not so bad. you know, 2 weeks later, hey, you're a really good guy. I think that makes a world of difference. The mentor that you get to be in the schools.
So, do you identify people, have you met young people who see what you do and all of a sudden they go, well, maybe the sheriff's department is a career I'm interested in? Do you get a little bit of that?
I've had a lot of those conversations. And I open, like in the high school, I had at least 20 people, hey, you mind if we go get coffee and, you know, talk about law enforcement? And they actually just started a program at Central. I can't speak for Wilmot, I wasn't there, right? But kind of almost like an internship that they can go into criminal justice, but they have all sorts of stuff like that. I've had many conversations like that though.
So now, I know that Gateway, for example, has a training program for officers.
Correct.
Sheriff's Department probably tracks people from the Gateway program, I would imagine, right? You know, Gateway leads the state of Wisconsin in dual credit. Is there a dual credit program between the,
The high schools and Gateway?
yeah,
Yes, and one of them is criminal justice.
Very much so. Yeah.
great. Yeah. Okay. I'm done, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Supervisor
Thank
Pearson?
you, Mr. Chairman. Did I hear you say that you talk about the amendments to the Constitution?
They have government classes, right?
Yeah.
So they say, hey, can you come in and talk about law enforcement? Here's the amendment. You know, what do you have to do? What do you see and what do you have to do? Can you explain a little bit about that, or maybe a little bit about the court system, right? I don't go into real detail because kids don't want to learn detail about it, but they're real curious about, you know, what do you do there? How does it work? That kind of stuff. Yes.
So it just seems like a great thing to be, letting the students know with boots on the ground, how this thing actually gets turned into, real life that you guys have to work with, you know. So I think that's a great thing that you're interacting,
Yeah, I love it.
and I yield, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Pearson. Supervisor Burkett?
I was just reflecting on this dual credit thing, just for people who don't know what that is. So a high school student can be enrolled in high school and Gateway at the same time and earning college credits. So accelerating the process so that they become available to you earlier in the pipeline. So I just wanted to define dual credit. Thank you.
Thank you. The last thing I want to talk about is where are we with like KUSD and other schools?
As far as in relation kind of.
Yeah, the relationship and maybe getting. Yeah, I mean, are we talking to them about getting in some of their systems, offering classes, going in and talking?
Well, so for the DARE program does hit the KUSD schools. As far as the SRO, they're different. So, I mean, their officer was an SRO, or, I mean, we can, you know, but they are separate programs.
Oh, they are separate programs.
Are separate.
Yeah, and I mean, a DARE officer isn't gonna do what they do inside on a regular basis.
He could, because he was a SRO at one point.
I could, but he's one for all of them. He's not
I'm
in
the
the
second
school.
DARE officer as well.
So
So I teach right now because I'm over at Salem now. I took that over and he took another school from me. We kind of traded off a little bit, so. But I teach DARE as well at Salem.
But correct me if I'm wrong, the DARE officer, there's one DARE officer, right? And he's all around.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Hyde's the assistant, so he'll take over.
Yeah, but I mean, if we have a SRO, they're in the school and yeah. So I want to know if KUSD, if we've talked to them about having people in their schools, like SROs, any of that, traveling around to some of their.
KPD takes care of the KUSD. So KPD has SROs.
Okay, they won't, yeah. Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. All right. Well, that's a bit of information I learned. Okay, thank you. You're just a font of it, aren't you? Yeah.
Try.
All right. Supervisor Kirby.
So, this is kind of out of my curiosity as a parent, because my kids go to KUSD schools. And I know they have SROs at the high school level. I don't think any of the elementary schools have SROs. So I just wanted to get an idea, kind of what is the role of an SRO in the elementary school, just because I don't really know.
So I guess.
I mean, safety, obviously, right?
It's a little
But
bit, yeah, a little bit
It's definitely different than the high school, right? I would say it is a lot of building relationships at that age
Mhm.
and less, criminal aspects to it, right? They don't even drive, you don't do parking lots. It's way different, so I'm still getting used to it. I've only been there about a month and a half, couple months. But again, the education's there. I just have not been able to yet because it's a little newer, been able to create a curriculum for those classes. So I've talked to the district administrator. We're working on getting me into the classroom. Said that right. So I'm in the classrooms, but I don't necessarily teach.
Okay.
I'm in there kind of visiting, or I'll read to the kindergartners, right? The K-8 or 4K-8 is way different than me being in a high school. So we're figuring out what I can and can't do. Figuring out where they need me, where they like to use me, and kind of going from there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, that kind of takes care of my curiosities and questions. So anybody else? I thank you guys. I apologize for making you come in, but it's something that I've always followed since the beginning, and I just wanted a last update before I ride into the horizon. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You happen to be riding in a truck.
No, don't start with me. You gotta give a parting shot, don't you? Yeah.
A pickup is.
Yeah. Yeah, what can I put on the agenda for next month? All right, Public Works, request to use Monsanto funds.
Good evening, Shelley Billingsley, Public Works. Yes, I have a request that outlines from the required NR 716 site investigation that will be required for our parcel, what we call parcel 11, which is actually a parcel that was taken for the County Trunk Highway S project. So this is situated on the corner of S and N, or 38th Street. Parcel that we own. We did request that a no action be filed. Upon their review, they did give us some feedback that would require us to do a site investigation. So I have attached a proposal that we have gotten from our environmental consultant, AECOM, in which we will be doing some soil and groundwater testing for VOCs. So because we are asking for the use of Monsanto funds, I'm coming to finance to approve about 22,980 get added to our work plan for the Monsanto funds, as this parcel 11 wasn't identified in the initial resolution. So staff is recommending approval.
Supervisor Noodle.
You kind of, what you probably thought of that about the Monsanto, so everybody will.
So the Monsanto funds were received as part of a class action suit having to do with the PFAS, stand for some kind of long-lasting, eternal contamination of soils. And technically, we weren't even asked to be in it as part of being a municipality and having lands that have water and groundwater going into it, Fox River and that sort of thing. We were notified, say, a couple years ago that we were going to receive about $1 million worth of that. Now, at the time, they said that there were no strings attached necessarily, but the purpose of it was for the remediation or mitigation of the effects of that. So with that, there was a resolution that was approved a few months later that identified certain projects that accounted for, I want to say 400,000-ish of the total amount. So Shelley's here to request that a change in the spending of the dollar amount. Even in the resolution, it says that you can spend it for other types of projects that are very similar to it and have the same concept. So technically, this isn't really necessarily requesting approval per se, it's more of a notification. Now, if this money was to be used for something that was totally different than environmental use or whatever, that would require county board approval. But in this case, we thought it was good to be transparent on that it's a different project than the 2 or 3 that were notified in the original resolution.
Did you know what the balance is in the fund though, or roughly? I mean, it doesn't have to be or yours.
Yes, so, with what we have earmarked, there would be about 581,500.
And I believe you say you want to use 22,000, something like that?
Correct.
One last question, just to be, you mentioned it's 142 and then which corner is it? You know, it's
Right, it would be the southeast.
the southeast, okay. Thank you. I just passed by yesterday and I was trying to picture which one, that's why I asked.
Supervisor Gearston.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the use of the funds, the Monsanto fund.
We don't need to approve it.
It
So,
says, request to use Monsanto.
yeah, but
Okay,
we don't need to.
it's just a
approve it.
report.
It's a report.
All right.
Correct.
But
Then I'll just make one further comment. This is the $1 million surprise check that showed up at the treasurer, right?
It is.
So,
Yes.
we didn't file a claim or anything. It's just the $1 million check that showed up. So, thanks, I yield.
thank you. So you mentioned the word earmarked. What other things are earmarked?
We had 3 projects we identified in the resolution: Hillside Hardware, Roosevelt Auto Body, and 17th Court.
And so we haven't done that yet. We're going to do that.
We're still in the process.
Okay.
So we have done some site investigation work on 2 of those 3, and we're working on the 3rd.
So when I did my preliminary talk with Patty on this item, I had a question as to, okay, so initially we didn't need to do any of this, and then we did need to do it.
On parcel 11,
Yes.
so there was an underground storage tank that was removed. We requested that no action be filed, which means we don't have to do any additional site investigation work. You have to do that for the DNR to respond on whether they accept the no action or if they require other work to be
Okay,
done.
okay.
Because they reviewed that, they're requiring this next phase.
And so are we gonna be responsible for remediation down the road? I mean, we're doing this 22,000, but what if it comes up that we find stuff and we,
Right, we own the parcels, so we're on the hook either way. We're hoping that, we can show degradation, which sometimes can happen just naturally. So sometimes it just means that we have to keep an eye on it, continue testing it until that degradation happens. But we won't know that until these additional soil borings and groundwater borings are completed.
so my mind is taking me to a worst case scenario. Okay, so let's say we find that there's contamination from the tank and it's serious and we need to do remediation. And we don't have enough in this fund. Are we gonna have to come to take county money to, I mean, what does that look like?
There are other grant opportunities if we do find some remediation is required. Now, we understand that this is an underground storage tank, so we would know the source. It's not that we're investigating where it would have come from. So usually underground storage tanks leak pretty slowly. I believe from what I've read on this one, now the tank was removed before I got here, is it wasn't evident that it was leaking. So I foresee that this is something that you would dig up. You know, once we know how deep it is, you dig it up and take it out and take it to a registered landfill. But there is grant funding for that type of work.
Okay. Similar to a root canal.
Pretty clear.
Okay, I mean, I just want to know if there's something down the road we need to be thinking about, but thank you very much. I appreciate it. Any other questions or concerns from the committee? Continue on it.
Okay.
Could I request, even if I'm not here, to have a report come back on how that goes?
Sure.
Whoever's on finance at that point in time, just make sure that they get a report on how that testing is going, so there's no surprises down the road. Thank you. Thanks, Brian. County Clerk, tax deed parcel update. Hi, Reggie.
Thanks for having us. I think you guys all, Reggie Wallagora, Kenosha County Clerk. I think this was sent to all of you, the proposal for subsequent sealed bid auction with no minimum bid. I believe you guys all received this. So if you don't mind, I would like to turn this over to my staff who has put the research and the time into putting this together and gathering this information. They've done this. This was, they initiated this on their own, and I'm pretty proud of what they have put together. And I would like to introduce them and have them share if that's okay with the committee.
That's fine. Continue.
So Amanda is my chief deputy and Julia. My deputy, they both work with the tax deed on different levels.
So the proposal that we have is a subsequent sealed bid auction with no minimums. So in our current tax deed process, everything is assessed for fair market value, and then appraised at that value, and then we can put it to auction. If it does not sell at that auction, typically we would do what's called an over-the-counter sale. So it goes over the counter, anybody can come in, bid on it. As long as there's no issues with their bids, they're able to purchase the property. However, the issue that we're finding is people are interested in properties. However, the reason they were not bid on at auction is because they did not want to pay a fair market appraised value for those properties. So what we've started doing is looking at to see what other counties around Wisconsin do. And we put in here what Racine County does, which is they do that subsequent sealed bid auction with no minimum. So the goal of that would be we set up another auction, we see what people are willing to pay, and then we take those bids back to finance here and see, do they cover the fees that have been incurred, the taxes, specials, all of that stuff, like the amount of fees that have gone in through Corporation Council, our office, etc. Achieve to reach the highest bid for that property, so making sure everything is covered, and making sure that we are not holding on to properties longer than we have to. Because sometimes we will hold on to properties for multiple months because we are putting them through multiple different auctions. And at that point, it is wasting county resources and is keeping them off of the tax roll, therefore depriving the county of that tax money. So in here.
So the first, what we do now is you just do an over the counter after it fails. And you're proposing a second
A second auction, yes, where we would then accept bids. So say a property appraises at $100,000, nobody wants to buy it at that. We would put it for a subsequent auction and say, you came in and said, I'm willing to bid $75,000 on this. We would take it back to the finance committee then and say, it covers our fees, it covers what we need to recoup the county's cost, and it is better for us to sell it within the first month of it being the subsequent bid and hanging on to it for the next 8 months and potentially it being not counted on the tax roll. So
it's just like the auction, they're still sealed bids and we have it open for 3 weeks, collect them all, and then we'll open them and then bring them to you saying, this is what the county's owed and this is what the bids that we have and the amounts. Right now, if we go to another auction, like the secondary auction, we can reduce it by 10%, but it doesn't really make a huge difference. Yeah.
Reggie?
This, I don't think that they stated it, but this auction would not have a minimum bid. These properties.
That's what I was getting at. So the first one, there's a number attached to it for a minimum bid. The second one is just come in and.
Give us your best and we'll take it and see if the county accepts it.
I think that's a good idea.
If
Okay.
it's too low, we can always say
yes,
no.
if it doesn't cover our costs, we are able to say, no, we want something different. So I provided what Racine County does for some like information as well as what it looks like. And we also provided 4 properties that we would like to get in the subsequent auction as quick as possible. These are properties that the county has had for several years. The first one is specifically in Twin Lakes, is a high priority house for us. It has multiple issues with it, and it has been a sore spot for the village for a long time at this point. And we want to get this sold as quick as we can because they are actively putting resources into like guard it with the Twin Lakes Police Department. So if we are able to relieve that burden from them, it would be really beneficial for the village. Additionally, there are some vacant lots that were appraised at high values. Pleasant Prairie, one was appraised at $310,482. We do have people interested in that property. However, to spend
Not at that
$300,000 on a vacant lot took them all on by sticker shock. As well as the same one there's another one in Pleasant Prairie, similar thing. The abutting property was interested in this one, was appraised at $72,974. Sticker shock, did not expect a vacant lot to be that much, so he has since not done anything with it. And then we have a similar thing going on in Wheatland, where a property was appraised at $22,006. The abutting owner was interested in the property, but seeing at the price, didn't feel like it was necessary for him to purchase it. And all of these properties do have a lot lower costs associated through taxes, specials, and RPs. I've added those on there as well. So going to the subsequent auction would give us the ability to recoup our money, get it back on the tax roll, and like take some burden off of these. And we also really want to do this before we get our next grouping of tax deeds, so that we're not compiling all of these properties on top of each other.
Supervisor Nudo?
Yeah, just to make it clear, make sure I understood it right. What we have with the minimum bid, so if an offer comes in, matching the minimum, basically you guys or the registered bids, whoever can accept the offer with the sale, correct?
For the first
For the
option,
first one,
Yeah,
with the
so-
minimum.
yeah, it has to be minimum or above. We
Right.
actually do the highest
Now,
one.
with this year, with no minimum, any offer that comes in, regardless of what it is, you would have to come to the finance committee to get approval.
Yes, we would take whatever bids we receive. So say we received 3 bids for one of the properties, we would have all 3 bids with us. This is what is owed to the county. This is what makes us whole. These are our 3 options. This is, if they're delinquent on other properties they might own, you would have that information provided and then from there, a conversation
Sure.
of which one is the best. for the
But that
county.
was my question. In other words, no matter what the price is and the no minimum bid, it would have to be approved by
Yes,
the finance committee.
correct.
I think it makes sense to do it. I just wanted to make, that I understood clearly. I think it makes sense because, hey, let them do it. Sometimes they'll bid more when there is no minimum bid.
Right, and that's the thing. Reddy's come back and said, hey, can we reduce this property down to what we're owed? And it sells, but we could find somebody that is willing to pay more, just not as much as what it's appraised at.
Sure.
So our goal with this is to get approval to start changing this process and having the subsequent bid auction.
Okay, my thoughts on this. Does anybody else want to talk on the committee before I go? Okay. I think it's a great idea. And I commend you for your initiative. Very good. Very, very, very good. I don't know. I won't be on the finance committee, so I don't know how many of these are gonna come back. Are you gonna selectively choose those that you put into this? Or is this going to be the process for everyone that doesn't sell?
So this would be the process for what doesn't sell. However, in a year, we only have about 2 tax deed auctions. So we would do one probably towards the beginning of the year and one towards the end of the year. It would probably come only twice.
I like it. Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Just thank you for asking that, because I was gonna ask that after that. So that will be done with all the properties. So,
Yes.
thank you.
And now that we have that under control, we're not gonna get 42 of them coming in at once, so, you know, like in the olden days, you've got a handle on it, so it's not gonna be, yeah, this makes sense to me.
The motion to be approved. or-
Yeah, we do.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Supervisor Nudo, seconded by Supervisor Kirby to approve. Any questions or comments before we take a vote? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Did you vote? Did you vote aye?
Yes, I.
Okay, thank you. See, my bad ears did not hear you. I heard him, so I just gotta check. All right, thank you. That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Audit of bills, did everybody sign? Okay, thank you. Report from administration, Barna? There's first.
Evening, everyone. Sarah Tappan, Director of Human Resources. This is informational only. So with the announcement of the retirement of our remaining GIS analyst in land information, Greg Fliss, we will be posting the opening as a GIS real property analyst for the 2025 closeout resolution language. So that was approved in that to reclassify that position if it became vacant from an NE 10 to an NE 11. As long as it's levy neutral, and we do anticipate that given his current rate of pay and vacancy while we recruit. Just informational.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Supervisor Gearston.
Mr. Chairman, just a question to Clara. I had a constituent that was applying for a seasonal job and noticed a glitch in the system, and then later that seemed to be addressed and they were able to get the application completed. Was there something that happened with that is corrected or that you're aware of? Or?
I'm not aware of that. I know we just implemented our new system at the beginning of the year. That also includes our application system. And as we're processing seasonals now, there was a little getting used to the new system and getting acquainted with it. So it may be related to that.
Okay.
We have smoothed that out.
So this is our first cycle using the new software. What's the name of the software?
UKG.
UKG. I remember UKG. That was in the budget. But so far it's working okay. You're onboarding your seasonals and filling all of the positions. And in fact, you're probably getting pretty good demand for it, I'm guessing.
Yes, the seasonal hiring is in full swing.
In the past, we had trouble getting that filled, but I'm hearing that we're getting them filled rapidly, and people that would want to apply, positions are already full. Is that happening?
Sure. Yeah. There are somewhere where we have a lot of openings and others where not so many. And returning seasonals are of course highly valued.
Very good. That is my question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire. Arna, general fund, please.
General fund report. Everyone should have a general fund report at their positions. So overall, you can see that we're still tracking at the break-even range. The projected deficit went down a little bit. At the end of the day, I think we're probably gonna end up on the positive side a little bit. Still have some journal entries and things we have to put through. The percentage at the bottom where we try to get to 30%, if you add the $1 million that our auditors and our rating agency allows us to add to our general fund number, that brings us to just under 30%. So we're still right in line with where our target is overall. So starting at the top of the items that cause increases to the general fund, we increased our projected surplus in human services up from 3.2 to $5 million. That's again driven by the savings from the placements that we had at the Children and Family Services Division, and some smaller dollar amounts from behavioral health. But that's getting up there, thankfully. Below that, our sales tax revenue surplus, we got our last month, we got December. It was better than 2024, but it's still, it brought down the overall bottom line. We were still good, $740,000 over what our budget was. Year over year, we are up 8.1% over last year. So that's very good. That's much higher than our average. I took a look at just the Christmas buying season. My definition of that is October to December, and we are up 3.7% over 2024. So that's good. Overall, we ended up with 22.4 million for sales tax. And for the 2026 budget, we increased from 25 to 26, we increased that by 1.8 million. So we would need a 4. This year we went up 8.1%, like I said, and we would need a 4.8% increase in 2025 to meet our budget. So I think we're in good shape there. Next one I'll talk about is the Public Works operating surplus. We're getting toward the end here. And we're having, our projections are up to 500,000. We're increasing it from 150 to 500,000. The large majority of that projected surplus has to do from the highway division. They had a decent amount of snow during the winter months of November and December, and that helped us offset operational costs with state revenue. And then the other departments also are chipping in with some smaller surpluses. Public Works always does a very good job making sure they're coming in. Treasurer's revenue is going to end up 325,000 over, just a little bit lower than our projection from last year. So that's still in the plus range. The two internal service fund insurances that we were able to finalize, liability insurance surplus ended up higher than what we were projecting at 159,000. So another good year fiscally, budgetarily. Workers' compensation is going to come in at $99,000 surplus. It's just a tick below what we were projecting last month. And miscellaneous expenses and revenues right now are showing a net surplus of 150,000. We had it at break even last month. Now moving to the lower section of items causing decrease to the general fund. We're getting toward the tail end of final costs for the departments and divisions, sheriff's expenditures. We popped that up to $3.5 million. Not surprisingly, it's the same things that we've been reporting all along. The final deficit in overtime is going to be just short of $2 million. For informational purposes, we increased that by $1 million in the 2026 budget, so that'll help eat into that. So we're not carrying over a deficit. The inmate medical service provider vendor that went $400,000 over budget, with us having to move to a new provider in April. So we knew that was coming. That was 400,000, and pharmaceuticals expenses were up 300,000 over budget, and food costs were up over 400,000. The good news on that is more than half of the known deficits that we have in the sheriff's department have been backfilled as part of the 2026 budget. So we're not going to be carrying over deficits for next year. Health insurance, we increased that. We're almost to the end. There's only a couple entries left. Looks like we're gonna come in under $2 million, about $1.8 million, which is much better than last year. And it's I think it's a result of us doing some plan design changes that help really bring down our prescription costs from 2024. And our claims came in just a smidge higher than we were projecting, and the admin costs came in more than budgeted. I ticked up the general fund investment interest revenue. We got our last month reports regarding that ticked up a little bit. So we're going to end the year about $975,000 under budget. Another area that we knew all along that we were going to be short, and that has to do with interest rates. But we backfilled over half of this deficit in the 2026 budget. So we should be in better shape for that going into 2026. The tax delinquencies, we popped that up from 200,000 to 400,000. There's still some more work that we need to do. We've had a couple of meetings with Terry. She said that tax certificates increased. There were a few larger ones that we've been able to work through. So that number may or may not come down from that. Hopefully it won't tick up any more from that $400,000. And then lastly, the vacancy deficit flipped from a positive to a negative. Pretty much it's going to settle in pretty much break even. So it looks like our 650,000 that we budget is going to be pretty good overall. So overall, still tracking well. My expectation is it will be on the plus side when it's all said and done. With that, I'll take any other questions.
Supervisor Gearston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Barna, what did you say the sales tax? You think it's gonna come in at for the end of the
So at the end of the year, it's gonna come in at 22.1 million.
22.4?
Yeah, and that's 8.1% higher than 2020.
And this, the workers' comp, I looked over 4 years, the budget went from about 1.5 million to 900,000. So the actual is gonna come in at about 800,000. So it's almost like we cut the cost in half of this.
Yes.
And with Clara here, we did that. What's the name of it? A nurse triage program? What's the proper nomenclature? Paradigm is no, it is nurse triage. Okay, so I use the correct nomenclature. How much would you say that affects this cutting in half of the workers' comp?
I would say it's significant. If there's a way that we could.
Could you say it's roughly half, or would that be fair to say, or?
Could be as much as I Claire could speak to that more than I.
Yeah, it certainly had a significant impact, the self-care that people can do because they have the guidance of that nurse, that can counsel and give that, treatment right over the phone.
So your experiences, we haven't done an analysis of it, but would it be fair to say roughly half?
At first, I would think that would be fair.
Would that be a hard thing to analyze?
I say we could look at the other factors and see how those, and then obviously the squeeze would be the.
That'd be interesting to know. So, good. Thank you. I yield.
All right, any other questions or comments on the general fund? Seeing none, thank you, Barna.
Looking to adjourn.
It's been moved to adjourn.
To stay.
And seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned.